Good morning to everyone here on a Wednesday for our grad chat, couple with parents. Welcome to the session. Today we're going to be talking about cybersecurity at home, but before that, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation that we meet on here virtually. We pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and recognise their strength, resilience, and the capacity of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait people in this land. So yes, today we're here joined by Darren Tinai, our Cybersecurity Awareness Lead at the University of Melbourne, and he's here to talk to us about cybersecurity in general for the in terms of the university's point of view, but also just little tips and tricks and guidance around making ourselves a bit more safe online, especially during these times when we're spending 99% of our time at home. So Darren, welcome to the session, and yeah, thanks so much for being on board.
Hi everyone. I just want to say thanks to GSA for having me today. Thank you to Vita and the team for reaching out to the cybersecurity team and having us come along to have a chat to you guys about cybersecurity. I think it's quite an important topic with everything that's going on at the moment. So it's good to be here, and I'm looking forward to our session.
Thanks, Darren. So just quickly, I wanted to mention also that GSA is part of these family sessions every Wednesday. We observed the International Day of Families, which was last Friday, so 15th of May, and that's held every year. It's a UN recognized day. I think we're in the 27th year, but the day actually provides an opportunity to provide awareness of issues relating to families and to increase knowledge of social, economic, and demographic processes affecting families. So, like any of our representation at GSA, we are a strong support for our graduate students who are parents or carers, and so yes, we recognized that day last week, and we are always pushing out to support information sessions or activities to support that cohort. So yeah, so thanks again, Darren. Over to you.
Like I said, thanks for having me. So before we get into things, I'll share a brief background about myself. I'm the Cybersecurity Awareness Lead for University of Melbourne. I started out in February this year, joining a team of about 15, and we currently fall under the business services portfolio. So I've been in the cybersecurity space for about 5 years, with the last 4 being spent in New Zealand. And as of this year, I decided to venture out to Melbourne, and here we are.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, let's get started. So what is cybersecurity? To understand this, we have to take a trip back in time and explore what cybersecurity has come from. So the initial thought that comes to mind, like most of us, was this famous image of a dark hooded figure in some dimly lit background gaining access into bank vaults and wreaking havoc with just a laptop. So we coined a name for him, the hacker, or otherwise known as curious kids in the basement with an internet connection and a bowl full of snacks. So the identity of the hacker has morphed over the last few decades, and we can see that in recent news. So what was once the single individual with a laptop has now grown into organized cyber criminal syndicates who get together and pool their resources to steal information from users and organizations. So an example would be the toll logistics company, who is currently being hit with malware, which has led to confidential employee information being breached. So cybersecurity in its very essence and simplicity is protection. So it's protection from the hacker kid in the basement and protection from every other hacker that seeks to jeopardize what's important to us. So what is important to us? What's so important to us that a hacker would be interested in our information as individuals? So we can start off by what's brought us here today, connection. So a quick search shows that there's about 4 billion active internet users as of April this year. So that's a lot of cat videos being played. So all these users are watching videos, they're sharing information, they're downloading applications, playing games, buying things online. The list goes on. It's a whole world in itself. The internet connects us to different parts of the world, helping us to keep in touch with family and friends, sit in long Zoom meetings. It just goes on and on. But with this connection also comes a responsibility to be cyber secure. If you think about it, your Facebook account, your Google Photos, your financial documents, they're all available for you to manage online. So things like your browser history, your geo-tracking location, your most recent Uber Eats order, they all contain a digital footprint. And knowing that that information is out there on the internet takes great responsibility to manage.
I think just on that, Darren. I mean, it's actually scary when you put into those that way. Is that, yeah, everything we do has a digital footprint. I think there's no way around it really, unless you're out in the hills and you're off the grid kind of living. But it is scary because I don't think there's, especially now that we're stuck at home. I
Yeah,
think more and more so people are reliant on online processes, right?
yeah, totally. I like to think of it as so when you go out to get something to eat and someone offers when you go to pay and someone offers you if you want a receipt, and that's the same thing online. But this case, you can't ignore your receipts. There, you get a receipt for everything. So there's a
Mm.
timestamp to everything that you do online.
Yeah, yeah, and even just now we're doing cashless is a preferred currency.
Yeah,
It's almost like you have to have a trail no matter what you do, and I think it's good and bad. But in this instance, it just leaves you more exposed, right?
that's right. And that's where the issue starts. Is sometimes people they're unaware of this, and like it can lead to so many more problems down the road.
Mm, mm.
Um, okay, right. So why is cyber awareness so important? So I really love this graph that I borrowed from the SANS Institute, which is a cybersecurity solutions provider based in the US. So it tells a tale of the amount of work that has gone into improving security controls in the Windows operating system over the years, as opposed to the human operating system, which is that line shown in red. So every year there's a massive investment into R&D by these software giants to improve security features to keep cyber criminals out, but very little is being done to improve the human operating system, or in other words, the people who are using these systems. So cyber awareness is always going to be on the back foot, playing catch up, which can lead to a multitude of things. Namely, users are unaware of how to properly secure themselves and their data. They're afraid to seek out help because they see cybersecurity as sort of a last resort and the team that's almost unapproachable. So I get this all the time when people hear that that when the cybersecurity team will be involved, there's always a question of, what did we do wrong? This next slide is also a great representation of how technology investment has outweighed human investment in terms of cybersecurity. So think about it. On one single laptop, you've got antivirus installed, you have patch management, full disk encryption, VPN services. All of these security software is very expensive and have recurring costs each year to maintain. But all that fancy technology means nothing if the average user doesn't know the difference of when not to click on dodgy links in emails. So education and continual awareness is super important in the cybersecurity realm.
Sorry, Darren, just quickly, we had a question come through from the group. What does human investment actually mean? Is it educating human on how to properly use it, or what do you think?
So yep, that's correct. So in terms of human investment is, we're finding that a lot of organizations are looking to beef up and secure their systems, but very little is being done for like continual awareness and raising awareness on, just the average user of what you shouldn't do and what you should do in terms of when you're on those systems.
So it's more about the behavioral education, isn't it? So
Yep, that's correct.
understanding versus, yeah, busy. Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. So following off that last slide with the little amount of human investment that has gone into securing our people, our employees, our staff, this brings us to these statistics, which is what I've gotten off Scamwatch. So Scamwatch is an online website run by the Australian Consumer Commission. So it's a great website that organizations and consumers can use to learn more about recognizing and reporting through scams. So if anyone hasn't heard of this, I think it's a really great resource to have as a favorites. So you can keep updated with the latest scams that are being reported through and what you can do to avoid them. So back to the graph. In 2019, 142 million was reported in losses through cybercrime scams, with over 167,000 incidents being reported through. So this is just a sheer amount of like revenue that we're losing through cybercrime. So most of these scams were committed via phishing emails, which we will go over later in the discussion. So I've had a quick look at the statistics for 2020, and we're currently sitting at 52 million losses, recorded losses, and that's just for the months of January to April. So during the lockdown period, Scamwatch has put out several advisories to watch out for any COVID-19 themed scams that have really been rampant. The cybersecurity team have also seen a few incidents come through, and we have been responding and actively dealing with them. So in times of uncertainty, like what we're seeing, cyber criminals are using this to their advantage by preying on people's emotions and fears. So it's more important now than ever to be cyber aware of what is going on and how you can protect what's most important to you and your information. Okay, so I've put in together a few tips on what you can do to protect yourself and just secure yourself and your information. And so tip number one, passwords. There's been a massive debate about passwords going out of date, but so far that hasn't been the case. So always create your passwords to be long and strong when you can. It's better to use passphrases. So something similar to the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog is a good start. Just make sure you remember it. Another thing is to enable two-factor authentication if you can to your online accounts. So two-factor authentication acts as a second layer of security to your accounts. And so even if a cyber criminal has your password, with two-factor authentication, they won't be able to access your account. This second factor can be in the form of a text message code sent to your mobile number or a confirmation call. The second factor acts as like a confirmation of who you really say you are. So at the moment, we're currently rolling out multi-factor authentication to different departments for the University of Melbourne. this is for staff only, and students will also get this sometime later this year, which I think is a great initiative to help secure our systems and information.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I mentioned this before the call, is that a lot of our postgraduate students, especially if they're doing research or their PhDs, are considered staff members at the university when it comes to IT infrastructure. So a lot of our postgrads will probably be aware of this multi-factor authentication process.
Yeah. So at the moment, there's a dedicated multi-factor authentication project team. And what they've been doing over the last few weeks going into lockdown, so this started in January, they've been approaching different departments and sort of just on a timeline and saying, hey, you guys are up soon. So if you can, enroll in early. So they've given that option to staff to opt in early and enroll for themselves before they miss off the cutoff date. And then once that cutoff date has passed, they have no choice, but they'll have to enable multi-factor authentication in order to access their University of Melbourne accounts and resources. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind is to change your default passwords. A lot of us have Wi-Fi routers that are still on their default passwords. So it's good practice to change them to something more secure and something that you can remember. So try and refrain from reusing passwords to your other accounts. If you have a hard time remembering your passwords and keeping track of them, a password manager is a great tool that you can use to help manage your passwords. So they help immensely with generating secure and complex passwords, which are also unique. And also it's fully encrypted. So there are plenty of options online that are free to use in terms of password managers. And so another activity that people can go and find out if they need to change their passwords is this great online resource called Have I Been Pwned, which I've put up here. So you can use that to check if your account has been involved in a data breach. So if your account has been involved in a data breach, and it'll come back and give you the results on that. That's usually a good sign time to change your password.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. I do know about these password managers, and I have to say I've always been a bit hesitant because essentially you're putting all your passwords into one place, and then also if you forget that one password to get into all of them, I mean there's a risk there. I don't know. That's my naivety. So talk to me about that.
So the caveat to that is you do have to remember the master password. So the master password is for these password managers, they call it a vault, and that vault is where you store all of your sensitive passwords and information. So if it's good practice to be the only person who knows that master password. If you do forget your master password, there is no other way that people can get into that vault or your account, and that's because all of your information in the password manager is encrypted. So good news is it's fully encrypted, but bad news is if you forget your master password,
you're done.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons to that, but I think what's really important to keep in mind is that password managers help reduce the amount of weak password hygiene that has been shared across your different accounts. Yeah. So you don't have to remember all your passwords. And I mean, who remembers all their passwords, like different passwords nowadays?
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, I've got a couple of questions related to this slide actually came through, and they're actually related. So one says, how do you trust a password, how do you trust a password managing company? Because there's probably, I mean, the funny thing is there's probably scams going out about we're a password manager company, give us your passwords. And I mean, do you have a list of good examples? Is there a link we should go to trusted groups?
So currently, personally, I use a password manager called LastPass, and what their privacy model is based on is that no one else can access my vault because it's all secured and encrypted. So all of the information, if someone was to get that, it would mean nothing to them without the master password. So it really is, it really does pay to have like a strong master password, and it's really encrypted.
So I guess in terms of trusting a password management company, I guess it's just do your research and make
Yep,
sure that.
yep. So it's just like any other risk based assumption that you have with doing anything. You have to do your research, and I think I encourage everyone to sort of compare different last password managers and what their privacy assessments look like, and you can make your decision from there.
Okay, but I mean, I've got a couple more questions, and I'm not sure if you talk about it later, but I'll put them out now, and if you wanted to refer to them later, you can. So one of our early questions was that we have one of the attendees is basically uses Macs as their tech at home. So,
Yeah.
but she knows that when she was using Windows, she used to have to buy antivirus software for her Windows products. I mean, is it, as she's now on Macs, should she be looking at antivirus for Macs, or what's the situation? Do you know much about the difference between the protection on Windows versus Macs?
So like for Macs, the iOS devices, they're quite good when it comes to security, and like a lot of their security controls are quite robust. In terms of Windows, that's correct. You do have to get antivirus, but Macs, they also pride themselves in having like a robust security control. So, I think in terms of we could open this to a longer discussion
Yeah.
between Macs versus Windows, but so far like with Macs, they've got some really good solid security controls.
I think also too, you probably agree is that no one is completely
Yeah.
100% safe
So,
in
so
terms of.
that's true. In cybersecurity, you can only minimize risk. You can't eliminate that, and that's something that we always like uh, get users to be more cyber aware of. Is you could have all the newest tips and the newest software and stuff, but there's always going to be some vulnerabilities.
Yeah, okay. Great. And look, sort of a part related question that's come through also is, does using incognito or private browsing windows help us in terms of protecting privacy while using public systems?
So in terms of incognito, it does like clear your cache and your browsing history, but in terms of in terms of using it as opposed to just a normal Google browser, like Cognito does tend to not track a few of your activities to some extent.
Okay. So still not bulletproof. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not built, that mode is not built to
yeah.
protect you completely.
So what I use is a DuckDuckGo, which is I'll share that with Andrew, um, so that everyone can have a look at that. DuckDuckGo is a web browser which they claim that they don't track anything or uh, none of your online activities. But as again, like there is a caveat. It only goes to some extent, and what we're seeing is a lot of people starting to come up with privacy centric products to sell
Okay.
to consumers.
Okay. Okay, great. I think Andrew just put the link in there in the chat, so thanks,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Cheers, Andrew. Okay. All right, shall we move on? Okay. All right, so tip number 2 for keeping cyber secure is as simple as updates. I know we tend to put them off when they pop up. It can be annoying at times, but it's very simple and super important. So these updates, they contain security updates that previous operating systems didn't address, which leaves our devices vulnerable to cyber attacks. So one trick I swear by is turning on automatic updates so I'm not constantly having to check if new updates have been released. I think making time to go through your devices and ensuring they're all updated pays off and keeps your devices more secure. So every month I have a habit of just scheduling some time to go through my devices and delete, do a spring cleaning of apps that I no longer use, and getting rid of apps that I don't use or don't serve a purpose to me anymore is also a good way of securing your devices.
Yeah, I think that's a good good comment. I think I'm one of the culprits who just downloads apps but never deletes them. And then
Yeah,
I think one of the worst functionalities that came through is that you could group apps together into like a folder almost.
yeah,
And that made it look like I didn't have many apps, but essentially I'm still holding on to these apps. But that's I think that's what I'm going to do after this call, actually.
yeah. It's always good to do like a Marie Kondo of all
Mm.
your online apps. Okay. So tip number 3, super important for parents. So there's so much more online activity amongst children, especially with school being out and the current situation of staying at home. So if you can, have a dedicated device for children to use for their online activities. And this is just to separate them from any information that you wouldn't want them to access. So for example, your work laptop, which can also lead to accidental deletion of work data that is crucial to you. So you should also consider having shared access to their social media accounts if they have any, just so you can keep an eye out on their online activities. So for example, YouTube is a great online resource for learning materials. However, there is a lot of uncensored content across the platform. So where possible, use barriers such as parental controls in your settings or restrict your kids to the YouTube Kids app only. Uh, and finally, one of the most significant issues that occur on social media platforms is cyberbullying. So encouraging kids to speak up and report through any cyberbullying that they come across directly or indirectly, so it can be reported and dealt with immediately.
I mean, that's super important. Thanks for pointing that out. I think, as we're at home more, it is. I mean, although we're with our children more or our loved ones, it is hard to keep 100% eye on them doing everything. And I think
Yep,
little tips like that just ensures some safety.
yep, that's right. Totally important. So tip number 4 is what we mentioned earlier about scams, and we're just going to roll off this. So we see it all the time on the news. Cyber criminals scam people out of money, and we never think it will happen to us. But that's exactly how people get scammed in the first place. So there are a few types of scams to look out for. So the first is called phishing. So phishing, this is when a cyber criminal tries to obtain sensitive information from you by pretending to be someone of legitimate authority. So phishing scams usually come through to your email inbox, asking you for things like your username, passwords, or your financial information, such as credit card details. So phishing is the same as phishing, but the medium of communication is via phone call. So an example of a phishing scam is when someone calls you and claims that they can remove a virus from your computer. So smishing is done via text messages. So this is when you get a text message asking you to click or find out more information in an attached link that is most likely malicious. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
yes. Sorry, no, sorry to interrupt you, Darren. You talked about the smishing, and
yeah,
my cousin literally the other day got a text message saying it was from the Commonwealth Bank,
yeah,
and that you needed to click the link and deposit $1 into it to verify that the account was active, or
yeah,
it was something ridiculous like that, and
yeah.
and,
Um,
and we sort of sometimes go, oh, that's crazy, delete. But there are times when there's a fine line between what you think is real and what you think is ridiculous.
yeah, and that's 100% true. So these scams sort of prey on human emotions, and they try to catch you out when you're most vulnerable.
Mm.
So sometimes before it's sometimes it's too late for other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So fortunately, there are some typical red flags to help identify a scam. Um, so if the message is urgent and it asks you to drop everything this instant to focus on it, then it's highly likely it's a scam. So if they ask you for personal or financial information, it's a scam. So they usually come across as unsolicited. So when you get a email congratulating you for winning an online lottery ticket that you don't remember buying tickets to, it's highly likely it's a scam. So one thing all these scams have in common, they all have attached links or files that they ask you to click on or download. So these links usually lead to dodgy websites and contain downloadable files that are malicious of nature. So one dead giveaway is poor grammar in these scams. So they don't seem to address you directly, but but as a group. So for example, using hi there instead of formally addressing who the individual is. Um, Here are some examples that are pulled from Scamwatch regarding the COVID-19 related scams. So we've got one email here impersonating the Department of Health offering testing results to people, and also a text message scam impersonating the tax office on how to claim tax. Um, so these are just a few examples of the kinds of scams happening today. So it's very, very important to be aware and cautious when dealing with unfamiliar emails and messages.
Yeah, great, great. Thanks, Darren. Look, we've got a question come through. Based on that slide was basically, it is hard to distinguish the number that they're calling from is fake or not. What will happen if we accidentally attended a call, even if we hung up immediately? I guess there's some anxiety around, especially the phone call ones that come through when you're speaking to a person. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a question comment there for you.
Yeah. So it's quite difficult when especially when you get a call out of the blue. But one tip to sort of live by in terms of cyber awareness is if you get a call from an overseas number that you don't recognize, um, chances are it's coming from a scam. And if it's from a number you don't recognize or don't have in your contacts, um, don't answer it. And another thing is if someone gets on the phone with you and they claim to be from an organization, it's always good to hang up the phone um, and verify that information by going to a public website or a public number that organization has, just to do your work to check off it's actually legit or a scam.
Yeah, because that's a good point actually. It's happened to me a couple of times. I've gotten numbers from different states of Australia,
Yep.
and look, obviously I live and work in Victoria, so for me I said, okay, that's bizarre. I don't know anyone there, and why are they calling me? And I tend to, if I miss it, which I normally do anyway, but I would actually Google the number and just have a bit of a research
Yep.
about it,
Yep.
and sort of 9 times out of 10 it's something I had ordered online, and
Yeah.
they're just trying to confirm some details, which is fine. But that 1 time out of 10 it has been, do not answer this call.
Yep.
It's a scam.
Yep. That's right. Um, okay. So the fifth and final tip is just to follow a checklist to ensure you're creating a cyber secure home for yourself. So check if all your devices are secure. Do you have unique passwords or passcodes on all of them? Check if you have antivirus installed. Ensure that you're downloading apps from trusted sources. So for iOS devices, it would be the Apple Store, and for Android devices, it would be the Play Store, the Google Play Store. So the next thing is, are you regularly backing up important files, such as sensitive and confidential documents? Backing up your media to the cloud? Are you saving duplicate copies just in case you lose one accidentally? Checking if your devices are on their latest operating systems, and maybe switch your apps on auto update. So it's questions like these. Do you still need to keep those apps that you no longer use? And lastly, but most importantly, is just stopping for a minute to think before you click on any unfamiliar emails or messages.
Yeah, great tip there, Darren. We've actually got a question come through, and actually, this is an interesting question, even for me, is do you install antiviruses on smartphones?
So no, that's someone's gonna come out and say no otherwise. But for what usually happens when malware gets into smartphones is when people decide to try and jailbreak their phones. So for iOS devices, for Apple phones, the security controls are quite robust that they don't allow you to do that. In terms of Android devices, there is a way of users being able to jailbreak their phones to download other files, and this can lead to like malware down the line. So it's for smartphones, they do come with that. They do come with sort of antivirus installed and the good security controls on it, but it's only if people are using them for the right, I guess, for the right reasons.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, and I've just gotten so finally, I just wanted to end with some great online resources that you can access at any time. I think I've given Andrew links to these that he can post up. So Scamwatch is a great platform for recent scam updates and how to report them. Stay Smart Online is also another great website that shares advice on cybersecurity. We are a supporting partner of Stay Smart Online, and so each year they celebrate Stay Smart Online Week, which happens around October, November. So the aim of this is to raise cyber awareness so that people can better protect themselves online. So be on the lookout for that sometime in the near future. And also, last but not least, SANS Security Awareness blog also has some great content on cybersecurity for everyone that they can share. Right, so I think I've reached the end of my presentation, but on a final note, I did just want to say, that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, not just for the cybersecurity team, but everyone shares a role, and we encourage people to take their cybersecurity habits beyond the workplace and into their homes, because at the end of the day, it's our reputations, our livelihoods that we're protecting, and that's very important.
Amazing. Look, thanks so much, Darren, for the comprehensive look at cybersecurity at home and some great tips and resources there, especially in the chat. So no, I really appreciate your time, and if there's any more questions that come in from our attendees, we've got some of the guys saying thank you from the attendees. So it's obviously the content is quite pertinent to where we are right now, and I think every little bit that we can put together to sort of make us a bit more secure at home, it all happens. And I think we're lucky in the fact that we have the university as as a partner to be able to guide us in the right way. So no, I appreciate the time, Darren.
No, thanks for having us. It was really a pleasure to come and have a chat to you guys. I think everyone's sort of trying to find their footing in this what's everything that's going on at the moment. So it's good to come along and have a chat to you guys.
Yeah, really, really appreciate it. And so for the attendees, thank you. So Darren, this will be up on our website for our blog with the recording. And so if the attendees, if they wanted to share it with any of their colleagues or friends, please feel free to do so. They also have the resources will be attached to the recording as part of the summary, so that you won't be missing out on those links there. So again, Darren, thanks so much. I'm actually going to take this opportunity, if there's no more questions, to introduce our CEO, Rachna Muddagouni, and she's here just to talk a little bit more about GSA and families and how we are supporting families. So Rachna, are you there? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Tavita. That was such a fantastic session with Darren. I want to echo what Tavita said. It's such a valuable presentation. I mean, I learned so much during this period of time. So thank you, Darren. It was great having you. And I think I love the way that you said that it's a joint responsibility as parents and as a staff member, you know, being aware of our responsibility as employees or parents to keep our, you know, to do our share of processes and procedures and being mindful to keep our organization safe and our families and children safe. That's a very powerful message.
Yep.
And I found it very, very helpful. I think it was a very good 1 hour of my time that's spent on good professional development. So thank you so much, Darren.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So Tavita, probably I kind of wanted to echo the importance of safety and the importance of having an environment that is safe for our children, but also as a community for GSA to ensure that we at the workplace is safe, we as a community, our children are safe, that, you know, this month has been really exciting. We've had such good panel speakers, and we also have Erica Freidenberg coming in next week, I understand, Tavita, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. She'll be coming in to talk about, you know, setting boundaries at home and also setting those behaviors around those boundaries. So really exciting for next week.
That's fantastic. But one of the issues that has been coming to GSA and either through our inquiries and some distressing phone calls, as well as some reporting in the media is about violence. And so in the month of June, what we would be hoping to do is, apart from having some workshops on our main focus would be on SWOT-WAC, ensuring that we run series of webinars, series of workshops, really to support our graduates during the exam period. And I know, Tavita, you've got lots of exciting announcements next week. Absolutely. But probably from the area, what we will be delivering is something that I will be leading with the women's officer and with the families officer in the month of June, and the other council members and staff would be some workshops on understanding family violence. And this is not about implicating that there is any violence, you know, that we are responding to a particular incident, but I think our children are very impressionable, and it's important that we teach them really young about what it is to be safe and what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior in a family situation, and also to mold their behavior. You know, so we will have organizations like Relationships Australia, No to Violence, family violence centers, actually having a few guest speakers from there, but actually understanding, particularly in the fact that, you know, we've just, as you mentioned, had a very important day to focus on an International Family Day, the importance of supporting families with information on social, physical, and emotional aspects to keep themselves safe. That to talk about family violence or domestic violence is important, because what it is about is it's a pattern of behavior, and where a person tries to dominate or control other people in the family or in a work situation or in the community. And I think it's important for an organization like GSA to understand and to recognize that this is an issue in our community. Each of our graduates who are very well educated can support not only their own families, but also be a peer support for any other members in our community. And we want to kind of ensure that our workshops will be focusing more about giving people understanding and knowledge about what we define as family violence or workplace violence, or what we call as violence in our community, which is sometimes targeted to people of color, people who maybe, have a physical disability or other aspects of it. But I think it's important that I thought it's when we're talking to our graduate parents, the most important thing is role modeling the behavior. As parents, how we role model our behavior, the way we speak, the way we behave at home in front of our children, whether we're shouting or there's verbal abuse, teaching them really young that what it is to actually have disagreements, but have disagreements in a healthy and comfortable manner that makes people safe. How children are really affected by family violence, that we may think, oh, it's nothing to do with them. It's only, two adults not getting along. But I'm sure all parents recognize how sensitive our children are. The moment mom or dad is upset, they immediately know that, they've witnessed it or they've heard it or they see a change in your behavior. They're very distressed and they know, they pick up, and, it's even worse when they see any behavior that causes injury or damage into a property. And I've also noticed that some of that injury that we cause on our children is carried on to into your adulthood and as a child, about especially the way you manage your anger and how you control yourself as a behavior. So I guess I just wanted to introduce the topic, and we would also like to hear from the parents about what kind of strategies and skills we can offer to our parents to support them to mold positive behavior in their children. So this is going to be the focus that we do in month of June. It will be a lot about good support for our parents who are preparing for their exam, and sometimes re-telecasting some of the valuable, webinars that will support you during this period of time. But it's also a good program for us to be putting in the month of June, which is basically going to be focusing a lot on support with SWOT-WAC, how you can form study groups, how to manage your home and study strategies, how to help your children to understand when mom and dad need some quiet time to study, being able to be prepared and manage your anxiety when you have multiple roles to do. That would be a focus of through the SWOT-WAC. We're looking at healthy eating, stress-free exercises. But I think a part of it is also to ensure our mental health is managed by addressing issues of any kinds of unaccepted behavior, either at the workplace, in our community, or in our family. So I thought I just wanted to come and talk about that to you, Tavita, and the families. But I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the attendees. But also looking forward, Tavita, what's coming up next week? Tell us a little bit about what Erica is going to be focusing on.
Yeah, thanks, Rachna. Really important message you put out there for our students who are parents or carers, and that to say that we do hear you, and that we're providing some support as much as we can in this environment. So yeah, with families especially, we always have a routine of putting out some fun recipes that the families can do together over the weekends. We set challenges, so little games that you can run with your loved ones over the weekend. We have playlists that we release, and also some children's PE, physical education classes online with a partner of ours. So that's how we support parents, but also for next week, especially as Rachna mentioned, we have Erica Frunenberg, who's a fellow professor at the University of Melbourne, has published many, authored many books on the subject of being a parent, parenthood, and also working with children to get the best out of a family environment. So really excited to have her back on the show. So that's next week, 10 a.m. On the GSA webinar. So to register, please go to our Facebook page and register that way. But also supporting our other students with other initiatives. So we will be working with UMSU Legal to talk about really important issues, and family violence is one of those. So we'll be locking in some dates with them over the coming weeks, and also looking at your rights as an employee, and also other things like tenancy law. So even tenancy law is making a few changes recently, and so making sure that our postgraduates are up to date with their rights in that instance.
Yeah, and it's really important to acknowledge too is next week is quite an important week for some of our parents whose children may transition back to school. I think a lot of anxiety, because I think you just worry whether you're sending your child back to school, when is it safe, how your child is going to wean away back and from having you all the time and being at home and having a bit of a holiday spirit and suddenly into some structures. And there's a recognition, and it kind of times along with the time where for some of our master's students, particularly in coursework, who are parents, where they are, maybe having exams or even last minute reports to write. So we recognize that period of time that can be stressful. I encourage you to access the CAP service, the counseling and the psychological services of the University of Melbourne, if you feel you need to reach out for some additional support. But I think, as always, GSA is here. Ring the 1-800-GSA help number. Contact our families officer, Lubna, if there are any particular issues that you wanted us to focus on, or Tavita at GSA events. And I think I just wanted to give a big shout out to the student engagement team and all the staff at GSA. It's been absolutely an honor to kind of lead an organization like this during this very difficult period of time, not only for the community, but also for the whole world, and particularly our students, and a bigger focus on the graduate students, that week after week, we have been able to provide, webinars that can focus on particular issues. We recognize we have limited attendees attending directly, but we know from our data that, and the evaluation forms which are now available, that we get very good feedback and many more people watching it. So well done to you, Tavita, and the team. And thank you, Andrew, for all the technical support, and Stuart and Vivian, who've offered with the communication support, as well as Lou and Christine, who do all the promotion and the administrative work. So thank you so much. And GSA is still, there is a bit of more time for GSA to open its doors. We will not be opening our services in June, as it will be a bit too early, and we've been directed not to particularly open till about mid-July, as there's some renovation work also being currently undertaken. So thank you, Tavita, for having me on today. And I also would like to thank Darren from the University of Melbourne, who's joined us today, and the attendees.
Yeah, thank you, Rachna. Mira, and absolutely, Mira and echo your thanks to everyone involved, and especially to the attendees for taking the time, and for those who will be listening on to this session later. We're always here. 1-800, as Rachna mentioned, 1-800-GSA help is a direct line to us, and if you want to email us, it's info@gsa.unimelb.edu.au. So everyone, again, thanks a lot for your time. Hope you got something out of this, and we will see you on the next session. So the schedules are generally 10 a.m. Monday to Thursday. Look for our events on Facebook. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.